they've been clear that community energy is important. They want to grow the sector, and it does play a key role in tackling climate change. The biggest kind of announcement or commitment they've made in this space is, of course, through Great British Energy's local power plan. And I guess the key headline takeaway about Great British Energy's local power plan is it will partner with community energy organisations and provide them with funding and support to roll out renewable energy projects with a view to developing up to 8 gigawatts of cleaner power. And this is going to be done alongside local and combined authorities as well. Now, I know loads of you will have loads of questions about the power plan. What does it mean in practice? When's it going to happen? When is all this support going to be, I guess, detailed out? And what I'll say to that is that we're still working through quite a few of the issues, really keen to get it exactly right, because basically this is going to set the precedent for growing the sector over the next few years. And as you'll all know, it's a very complex area. I guess I'd like to highlight that this government has committed to carry on running the Community Energy Fund. So that was a £10 million fund that has been running for 2 years and is delivered through our local Net Zero Hubs programme and enables both rural and urban communities across England, and it is England only, and I'll touch on Scotland and Wales in a moment, to access grant funding to develop local renewable energy projects for investment. And I think to date, the fund has given funding to 154 community energy organisations, total valuing around £6.7 million. So almost at the end of that £10 million fund.
Here is a quick infographic from our State of the Sector report. A more detailed one will be coming out before the end of the year. Some important numbers in there: 4.4 million bill savings from the energy efficiency work, and large amounts of local money spent back into local economies. And a quick glance at potential: 74 stalled projects representing 270 megawatts of capacity. So once the brakes are taken off, there is existing capacity to build and huge ambition to go further. In 2020, we developed a 2030 vision to grow by between 12 and 20 times, contributing more than 5,000 megawatts of power, powering 2.2 million homes, supporting 8,000, nearly 9,000 jobs, saving 2.5 million tons of CO2 and adding nearly 2 billion to the economy. That was looking out of reach, but now it's back within our grasp. So we are hugely optimistic. The government has pledged the biggest expansion of support for community energy in history. They recognise that it can really help with the transition, reducing pressure on the grid, which is hugely costly, saving families money, improving communities' energy security, helping tackle fuel poverty, and unleashing the dynamism and resources of local communities and winning the consent of local people, without which we simply will not achieve net zero. So there's everything to play for, and we'll do it.
I'm outside with one of the residents who's benefited from our project, solar to begin with, now solar and battery. Now he's part of the solar and battery and community DSO project. So these residents, they're almost using 60% less electricity from the grid that they were 5-6 years ago. They've got a better understanding of local energy. And that's after we initially installed on 321 homes. We just raised the 3.2 million through Ethex to raise on another 1,000 through an innovative project with the local council. The local council and housing association are partners with us. They're one of the ones in 2015 didn't really have the expertise, and we didn't have any finance from them, but they gave us time. And then over that period, we've built on that relationship. Completed 3 innovation projects, been backed by the community as well. So, you know, our last raise, people are already investing in this. So it's good that there could be some low interest loans from government when they arrive in order for us to scale.
And so we share the view that there's real opportunity for the government to work with us and others in this sector, but we think we need to initiate a deal flow, a pipeline of community energy projects. We've already heard about the 74 stall projects, and so we think that government needs to work with us and other organisations to think about how we can unlock that. And I'm not sure I heard Olivia put a number to the investment, but I think we all think it's about £1 billion, don't we, in the local power plan. And so I guess what we might be saying is, let's say 100 million of that could be dedicated to capacity building, to development finance for local community-focused developers. That would mean flooding local communities with capacity, which would make good on the government's mission, not only on the clean energy mission, but also on its mission to share wealth equally across the country. And it would leverage the rich ecosystem of project developers like Andy's and others that we've been talking to, and financiers like ourselves and others like Thrive Renewables, Triodos and others, to bring a blend of finance into the space. Essentially, government, just as we at CO2 Sense have done for over a decade, would therefore be providing the risk capital to enable all of us to work out how we can deliver community energy at scale. And Duncan, I think, pointed out in his slides the scale of the opportunity if we can really ramp this up and scale it up. And importantly, as Duncan also mentioned, and I think Andy and others have mentioned, there are other technologies that are a little bit stuck at the moment, things like anaerobic digestion and hydro, which I think if we could get a little bit more development capital, as I'm talking about, into the system, we could start to unlock. And this is particularly important for some of those rural areas that the map showed are not yet covered.
Great to talk about blended finance models, and I think we all can agree that there won't be one solution here, that it will be a layered model where we'll need different forms of finance for different times and for different purposes throughout the sort of evolution of a community energy project, or even just that very initial capacity building right at the start. There's quite a lot of peer learning already happening with community energy, actually, and finance going to some of these organisations that can help to get new projects and communities up and running. But we've obviously got to really accelerate that to get to where we want to.
The first one is clarity around the beginning of the local power plan and the transition from the Community Energy Fund, which Olivia mentioned. I know that's in the pipeline and it's not easy, but it's really important because we've got momentum behind us and what we can't afford to do is stall. It's happened on so many occasions before with the ending of the Rural Community Energy Fund, where projects stalled and excellent people who were working in the support services in the net zero hubs just went off and got other jobs. So we need to keep the momentum going forward. That also needs to be looking longer term at how we finance projects after the Community Energy Fund and after the local power plan loans for community have to be repaid. And tax relief will be a really important part of that. So that's going to be probably a slightly long-term argumentation with this government. I would say collaboration with everybody, but particularly local authorities who are getting also a big support from the local power plan, is going to be absolutely fundamental. And that's got to be built into Great British Energy and into the local power plan. And finally, if you only give me three, it's local supply and enabling of local markets, because it's the joined up program projects locally which connect the local generation with local demand and enable that to be done flexibly and creatively, which is going to take the pressure off the grid, which is going to build the local interconnections, the local creative solutions that help localize our energy system, which is the only way we will actually achieve the net zero strategy, net zero transition in time.
yes, isn't it wonderful? There's, you know, all this funding to invest in, and we hear that from investors all the time. Like, they're keen to invest, they want to, but there's no pipeline of projects that they can invest in. And so we really understand that we need the development capital to be able to build that pipeline. It's what the Community Energy Fund is trying, and I think has successfully done through funding for things like feasibility studies for building out business cases. But we know that that needs to go further and do more if we're going to build that pipeline.
Let's look at the investor sort of perspective. You know, how can we scale up the capital that we need to actually deliver these projects? I mean, I think from our perspective, we're very keen that government money should come in at the right points in the pipeline. So very much at the early risk end. There's lots of projects that require capital for development. That might be in relation to planning, that might be in relation to grid connection. That is the type of risk which isn't suitable necessarily for community members to bear. And, you know, if government can come in and help bolster that, then it means that the projects can go ahead a lot quicker and smoother, and then we can help with the job of raising the finance from members of the community and broader across the nation. You know, the many people who invest in multiple community energy projects because they think it's just such a good thing to do, where they can really sort of take action on climate change. And as we know, using your money for good is one of the most effective ways actually of taking action on climate change.
Let's not forget that even if it is £1 billion, that really isn't going to be enough if it's done over 5 years. Even if it's 5 billion over 5 years, that just will never be enough to do all of this. So it's to build out all the local authority assets, all the community energy assets. So we do need to bring in that blended finance, and so we have to find innovative ways, as you said, Lisa, of using government money to unlock the risk elements and then bring in other finance on top of that at the back end.
Energy reduction is absolutely fundamental to community energy organizations. It's at the top of the energy hierarchy. We should, like we do with waste, reduce, and then I address how we can supply what we really need renewably and locally. It's at the heart of everybody I talk to, and it is a no-brainer. It delivers benefit immediately, and it delivers it forever. If you do energy efficiency, the returns on investment are compounding and eternal. And also it delivers more carbon savings very often for per pound than the renewable energy, which in many cases is funding them. So it's fundamental to the work of the sector.